The slap didn't hurt as much as the silence that followed it. It wasn't just the sting across my cheek, or the gasps quickly muffled behind hands holding wine glasses. It was the way no one moved. No one said my name. No one stood between me and the woman who had just struck me in front of a room full of people wearing smiles and judgment. It had taken me a decade to buy my home. It had taken her a second to try to take it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. 3 weeks earlier, I was standing in my penthouse kitchen, hand-squeezed grapefruit juice in one hand, laptop open with a half-written line of Python on the screen, when the first signal came in, an email from my mother. Subject line, "Quick favor, dear." I didn't open it right away. I already knew what it said. The pattern was as predictable as the code I wrote. When Ryan, my older brother, was between jobs, which was often, I got the calls. When his car broke down, I got the text. When his girlfriend left, I got the guilt. And when he finally turned 35, unemployed for the 6th time in 3 years, I got the full weight of a family who had mistaken blood for entitlement. And yet, like a fool, I bought him a gift, an expensive one, silver-dialed Swiss watch, $1,300 plus tax. I told myself it was symbolic, a gesture of peace, of trying one more time to bridge a lifetime of imbalance with something he couldn't return to the store. Rebecca, my best friend and emotional safety net, said it plainly over lunch the day before the party. "You're bribing him for peace." "I'm offering grace," I said. "There's a difference." "No," she replied, "there's not. Not when it's expected. Not when it costs you and buys them more room to take." She was right. Of course she was. But family was like an old operating system, flawed, outdated, and yet so deeply embedded that the thought of replacing it felt like losing a part of yourself. The day of the party, I pulled into my parents' driveway with my car freshly washed, my hair tucked neatly into a low bun, and the damn watch wrapped in matte silver paper. I wore the blue dress they once said made me look too ambitious for a woman, and brought a smile that felt like armor. My mother opened the door before I could knock. "You're late," she said. I checked my watch. 5:58 p.m. "Put your gift on the table. Your brother's outside." The house smelled of roast beef and resentment. Every seat was filled, every cousin in place, and every adult already nursing a glass of wine. The banner read, "Happy 35th. Ryan, our pride. Not our children, not family, just Ryan." He was holding court in the backyard, of course, telling some overinflated story about a job he nearly landed at an ad agency in San Francisco. "Too many small minds there," he was saying as I walked by. "Couldn't handle someone who thought beyond the brief." I didn't interrupt. I just placed the gift on the table and kept my eyes forward. At dinner, my parents took turns doting on him while carefully ignoring the promotion I had posted about the week before. I was now lead software architect at Nova Data, heading a team of 12 and spearheading a privacy-focused module on user authentication. Not one person mentioned it. But Ryan? Ryan was between creative phases. "Have you ever thought," I said, looking directly at him, "that maybe your creative phase is just a euphemism for never committing to anything?" The table fell quiet. My father refilled Ryan's glass. My mother cleared her throat. "He just hasn't found the right fit," she said, forcing a smile. "Some people take longer." "And some people," I said, "have been taking longer for 15 years. The roast beef sat like lead in my stomach. We moved to cake, then gifts. Mine was last. Ryan peeled the paper slowly, probably expecting cash. When the watch box emerged, his brow furrowed. "Oh," he said. "Nice." My mother leaned over. "Isn't that thoughtful? Your sister has such good taste." "Must be nice," he muttered, having that kind of extra cash lying around. I opened my mouth to reply. Then my father stood up, tapped his wine glass, and the whole room shifted. If I could have everyone's attention? The speech that followed was rehearsed, coordinated, a perfect family ambush. They painted Ryan as a misunderstood genius, burdened by an economy that didn't reward brilliance. They called my apartment wasted space and asked the room, "Doesn't it make sense for Ryan to stay with Maddie, just until he's back on his feet?" No one looked at me. But everyone nodded. Ryan leaned back in his chair, smug. "You've got that extra room," he said. "It's not like you use it." My jaw locked. "My office," I said flatly. "That's my office." My mother chimed in. "Honey, you're barely ever home, and it's not forever." I glanced around the table. No one thought this was insane, so I said it. "No, he's not moving in." Silence. "You're refusing to help your brother?" my mother snapped. "I've helped him. Thousands of dollars. This is my line." "Selfish," she hissed. And then, the slap. Open hand, right cheek, loud enough to echo, and the room agreed. I stood, not because anyone told me to, not because I had rehearsed this moment, but because my body decided it had finally had enough. I will not be guilted, bullied, or assaulted into surrendering what I built. My mother stared, stunned. My father's eyes narrowed. Ryan just smirked. As I left, I heard someone whisper, "She always thought she was better than the rest of us." I didn't look back. But here's the thing. They called it helping. I called it theft. Of space, of peace, of recognition, of me. And I wasn't giving it up anymore. If you've ever been overlooked after giving everything you had, type 1. You're not dramatic. You're done being drained. The email subject line was short. Official notice, verbal agreement, housing support. I stared at the screen, my coffee cooling beside my elbow, my breath caught between a laugh and a choke. A verbal agreement? Legal action? For what? For not letting my 35-year-old brother freeload in the penthouse I worked a decade to afford? I clicked open the PDF attachment. Our client, Ryan Williams, asserts that a verbal commitment was made by his sister, Madeline Williams, to provide temporary housing accommodations in her Seattle residence. Failure to honor this commitment may result in further legal recourse. I stopped reading. It wasn't just outrageous, it was war. And it was calculated, timed perfectly after the birthday ambush and the public humiliation. I could almost hear my mother's voice narrating the script behind that letter. "Let's see if she still says no when it's official." When I told Rebecca, she didn't even try to hide her anger. "This is beyond dysfunctional," she said. "This is abusive. It's coercion in legal wrapping paper." She was right. Again. And still, it hurt. Not just the letter, but the silence that followed. No apologies, no explanations, just escalation. That week at work, I buried myself in a backlog of code reviews and API audits. Focus helped, logic helped. I could rely on code. It either ran or it didn't. People, on the other hand, glitched by design. I thought I was finding my rhythm again, until Nate, a project manager on our team, accidentally forwarded a Slack screenshot of me venting about my family situation to a junior dev, to HR. I got called in the next day. "Madeline," said Trisha, our HR rep, as she tapped a file on the table. "We received a concern about inappropriate use of internal channels for personal issues. Nothing disciplinary, just awareness." I felt my ears ring. The conversation I had with Amy, the dev, had been private. I hadn't even used names, just something like, "Sometimes I feel like my family only calls when they need a rent check." Now it was in my employee file? "Who flagged it?" I asked. Trisha smiled politely. "That's confidential." I knew. Of course I knew. Nate had never liked me, especially not since I got the team lead position over him last quarter. He had a habit of dressing up envy and professionalism, always the first to point out concerns with people he saw as competition. The pattern was becoming familiar. My family, my workplace, both trying to mine my stability, either by guilt or paperwork. When I returned to my desk, I noticed the tab still open on my browser, the lawyer's letter. I forwarded it to Jessica Liu, my law school friend turned civil litigation attorney. Within 5 minutes, she called. "Are they serious?" she said. "Because I'm one more paragraph away from filing a counterclaim for harassment and attempted coercion." "I just want it to stop," I muttered. "It won't. Not unless you make it." She paused. "Do you want me to draft a cease and desist?" "Yes," I whispered, Please. I hung up and closed my laptop, too restless to code. The next day, I came home to find Ryan standing in my building's lobby. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my voice low and tight. "Just wanted to talk," he said. "You weren't answering texts." "Because I don't want to talk," I replied. "Especially not here." "I don't see what the big deal is, Maddie," he said. "It's not like you even use that second bedroom. You just want me to fail." "Don't you dare," I stepped forward. "Don't you ever say that again. I paid for every square foot of that apartment with 10 years of work, while you played entrepreneur with Dad's retirement checks. You think you're better than us?" His voice rose, loud enough to turn heads. "Just because you've got a view?" I pressed the elevator button hard. He followed me as far as the security desk, before Carl, the guard on duty, intercepted. "Miss Williams," Carl said calmly, "do you want me to call security?" "No," I said without breaking eye contact with Ryan. "Just make sure he doesn't get upstairs." Carl nodded. Ryan stepped back, still smirking. "I'm not the villain here," he muttered. "You are." That night, the social media post went up, a photo of our childhood home, captioned, "Some people forget where they came from the second they have a view. Sad when your own sister picks property over family. Family first, disappointed, truth hurts." The comments flooded in. Distant cousins, church friends of our parents, people I hadn't spoken to in years, all chiming in with sighs and sympathy for Ryan. Rebecca texted me, "Are you okay?" I wasn't, but I was done. Done being the emotional bank account everyone overdrew. Done being the villain in a story I didn't write. The next morning, I filed a formal complaint with building security. Ryan was no longer allowed in, period. Then I turned off my phone, pulled down the blackout curtains in my living room, and sat in the middle of my apartment, finally realizing something I should have accepted long ago. They weren't just trying to borrow space. They were trying to claim ownership over what I had earned, emotionally, financially, physically. And the worst part? They had dressed it up as love. If you've ever been told to be the bigger person just so someone else can take more from you, type 2. Sometimes the biggest thing you can be is gone. When I walked into the HR conference room, I was expecting a conversation. What I got was a disciplinary review. A printed page sat at the center of the table, my performance log, highlighted, annotated, cherry-picked quotes from team chats I hadn't thought twice about. One of them was from 3 weeks ago. "Trying to hold boundaries with family is like debugging someone else's broken legacy code." "Madeline," Tricia said gently, like a kindergarten teacher lowering her voice before bad news, "there have been concerns about your leadership tone lately, especially around emotional professionalism." I blinked. "Wait, what?" She gestured to the quotes. "Some team members felt the language could be dismissive." The room dimmed. My chest tightened. And then I knew. Nate, this wasn't random. This was retaliation. I had outperformed him, out-earned him, outlasted him. And now he was weaponizing my exhaustion, framing my private frustrations as emotional instability. And worse, it was working. I left the meeting on autopilot, stomach burning with humiliation. Back at my desk, I opened a new document. Title, Timeline, Williams Family Financial Contributions and Events. It was time to build my own case. That night I pulled receipts, literally. Tuition statements showing zero parental contribution. Bank transfers to Ryan totaling over $7,800 across 5 years. Emails from Mom asking for just a little more for his insurance. Photos of the 3 colleges Ryan dropped out of. My rental contracts, credit score progression, career ladder history. I color-coded everything. Facts in green, financials in blue, emotional manipulation quotes in red. I wasn't building a spreadsheet. I was building a shield. The next day I met Jessica Liu in her firm's downtown office. "You did half my job already," she said, flipping through the binder I'd assembled. "It's not about revenge," I told her. "It's about clarity. I want to hand them the truth and make them look at it for once." Jessica leaned back in her chair. "Then let's write a contract they can't twist." The following Saturday, I drove to the Neutral Grounds Cafe on 7th Avenue. a public space with good lighting and better coffee. I'd reserved a private booth with a sliding door. Just enough privacy to speak freely. Just enough openness to prevent drama. They arrived 5 minutes apart. My parents first. Mom in her signature beige coat, expression tight, lips pursed like she was bracing for weather. Dad behind her, older than I remembered. He gave me a nod that didn't quite reach his eyes. Ryan came next, late, of course, wearing sunglasses indoors, sipping some $7 matcha he hadn't paid for. We didn't hug. Thanks for coming, I said simply, placing 3 printed contracts in front of them. What is this? Mom asked, already on edge. This, I said, is a formal list of boundaries. If you want a relationship with me, these are the terms. Ryan scoffed. Terms? What is this, Survivor? No, I said. This is survival. I continued. I will no longer accept financial requests of any kind. No suggestions about Ryan moving into my home. No unannounced visits. No guilt tripping. No weaponizing family against me on social media. If any of those are violated, contact ends for 6 months. Dad picked up the document, scanned it. Quiet. Mom didn't touch hers. This is insulting, she hissed. What's insulting, I said, is being slapped in front of 15 people because I said no. That was, she started, then faltered. That was emotional. I was overwhelmed. You assaulted me, I said calmly. And no one apologized. Ryan leaned back, arms crossed. So what? You want us to sign this agreement? No, I said. I want you to understand what's changed. Whether you sign it or not is up to you. But if you ignore it, you lose access to me. My voice didn't waver. My hands didn't shake. Mom laughed, bitter and sharp. You really think you're that important? I didn't answer. I just looked at her. And for once, she broke the stare first. Dad cleared his throat. You've always been strong, Mads, but maybe a little too strong. I smiled sadly. I had to be. The room went still. No one reached for a pen, but no one left either. Jessica had warned me. Don't expect an apology, just expect resistance. But once you draw that line, don't erase it. When the silence became unbearable, I stood. I'll give you time, I said, but from today, I protect my space. Ryan muttered something as I turned, probably selfish or cold, or some recycled insult from a childhood where I got A's and he got excuses. But I didn't care. I walked out into the Seattle drizzle, let the cold slap my cheeks where her hand once had, and felt something inside me settle. That night, I got a text from an unknown number, likely a burner my mom used when I blocked her. You will regret this when we're gone, but by then, it will be too late. I stared at the screen, then replied, The only thing I regret is how long I let you borrow pieces of me for free. If you've ever had to write down your boundaries just so they'd be respected, type 3. It's not cruel, it's clarity. The notification popped up mid-presentation. LinkedIn connection request. Linda Williams. My mother. Using LinkedIn. Connecting with me through the one place she had no power left to sabotage. I stood at the podium, mid-sentence, demoing our new privacy dashboard to an audience of 60 engineers and 2 VPs at Nova Data. I didn't flinch. Just tapped the screen again and let the new module speak for itself. User-defined data purging, time-stamped permissions, full visibility, I said smoothly. Because privacy isn't just about protection, it's about choice. The crowd clapped. And inside, something clicked. She was watching. Not because she cared about the dashboard, because control wasn't working anymore. That night, back in my penthouse, I stared at the connection request again. No message attached, no apology. Just a silent hand held out from a distance, still refusing to acknowledge the damage done. I didn't accept it. I didn't block her either. Let her sit in that pending purgatory for a while. It was the first boundary she couldn't cross. Instead, I poured a glass of wine and opened my balcony doors. Seattle shimmered beneath me, clean, distant, alive. Rebecca was on her way over. Emma would join us soon after. No relatives, no guilt, no one knocking uninvited. This was my circle now, not built by blood, built by respect. Earlier that week, Jessica called with an update. The cease and desist had worked. No more legal letters, no more visits to my building. Even Ryan's online pity campaign had slowed to a trickle. "They've realized you're serious," she said. "That's what happens when the scapegoat learns to draw a perimeter." "And the workplace stuff?" I asked. Nova Data had opened an internal investigation into the HR note and the data Nate used to discredit me. Turns out, one of his concerns included altered metrics on project timelines, edited Excel logs that made my team look inefficient, fabricated data, not enough to fire him outright, but enough for HR to take away his promotion track indefinitely. Whistleblowing had its costs. I knew that. But it also had ripple effects. My quiet pushback sent a message to others, especially junior women in the company who stopped by my office more often now. Not to ask for help, but just to talk. To breathe in a place where they didn't have to apologize for being competent. "You gave up your comfort to do the right thing," Emma had said, "and you built something safer because of it." At home, I reorganized everything. I replaced the second bedroom's furniture, turned the guest bed into a reading nook, mounted a plaque above the window. Mine. Not just the room, the decision, the life. Ryan never got a key, and that mattered more than I thought it would. One evening, Stephanie, my cousin, the only one who'd shown a drop of empathy, invited me for coffee. "I just wanted to say," she began, "my mom thinks you've gone too far, but I think you haven't gone far enough." That surprised me. "I've tried talking to them," she added. "They don't want to understand you. They want the old version of you, the one who never said no." "She's gone," I said. "Good," she smiled. "Because the new one, she's a damn blueprint." We sat in silence after that, the comfortable kind. 4 months after the birthday incident, I hosted my first dinner again. My way, my guest list. Rebecca brought bread, Emma brought wine, Stephanie brought stories about her theater projects. We sat on the balcony while the city hummed beneath us, passing around plates, laughing without performing, no eggshells, no one waiting to erupt. "I used to think inheritance was about money," Rebecca said, raising her glass. "But after everything I've seen, I think it's about what you refuse to carry forward." I clinked my glass to hers. "Boundaries," I said, "are the real inheritance." And for once, no one tried to correct me. Around midnight, after everyone had gone, I stood alone at the window. The room was quiet. The air smelled faintly of rosemary and wine. My phone buzzed again. This time, new email, Gregory Williams, my father. "Malene, I know things can't be fixed overnight. I know we've made mistakes. I've made mistakes. Your mother isn't ready to hear that. But I see what you've built, and I just wanted you to know. I respect it, even if I didn't show it before. If you're willing, I'd like to meet. Just the two of us. No expectations, just conversation." I sat with it, reread it twice. It wasn't redemption, but it was something, maybe even the first step. I replied, "We can meet. Public place, my choice, my terms." The message was short, but firm, just like the boundary it honored. If you've ever had to become your own protector, teacher, and peacekeeper all in one, type 4. That strength, it's earned, and it's yours.